They say you can't get affordable cars anymore. And while the number of vehicles available under $20,000 has dwindled to just a handful, for just a little bit more than that, you can get a lot of bang for your buck. With a starting price of $21,495, the 2024 Chevrolet Trax is the lowest priced vehicle you can buy from an American brand today, although it is made in South Korea. It falls into the increasingly popular SUV size class between subcompact and compact. It goes up against models like the Honda HR-V and Kia Seltos. And even this top-of-the-line Trax Active trim starts at just $24,995. All Trax come standard and only with a turbocharged 1.2-liter three-cylinder engine rated at 137 horsepower and 162 pound-feet of torque, which is connected to a 6-speed automatic transmission and drives the front wheels. All-wheel drive isn't available, so if you want that in a vehicle kind of this size, you need to step over to the Chevrolet Trailblazer. Despite its vaguely rugged looks, the Active is not an off-road model. It has street tires on these black 18-inch wheels. The rear underbody skid plate is just plastic for looks, although its 7.3 inches of ground clearance are more than you get with a car. The Active also comes standard with a power driver's seat, heated seats, and a heated steering wheel. So it's good for cold weather, if not the deepest snow. What makes this stand out in its class, however, is its stance. The wheelbase on this is only an inch shorter than the larger Chevy Equinoxes. The interior is nearly the same size, and the cargo area only a couple cubic feet smaller. On my 6'1" scooch test, where I see how I fit behind the front seat, set comfortably for me without having to scooch it forward, look at that, tons of leg room. In fact, I could slide that back a little farther and still not touch my knees. But while the leg room is long, you'll also find the Trax's biggest shortcoming back here, because it doesn't have a center armrest or cup holders, except for these. But the Trax is not short on style. It has this great looking dash, dual digital displays, but also knobs and buttons for the climate control, which are a little redundant because you can also control the climate from the touchscreen, although I prefer the knobs and buttons. So there's wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone integration and a Wi-Fi hotspot that you can activate. The Active's upholstery is very nice, and the steering wheel wrap feels great, but there are a couple of things up here that remind you this is a low-priced car. These door cards are rock-hard plastic, and the sun visor doesn't do the extending thing where it blocks this part of the window. So you want to keep the sun on the passenger side as much as you can. I know the idea of a three-cylinder engine might sound odd to some people, but there's nothing wrong with it. It's very smooth, and Chevrolet even made it sound pretty cool. The power is more than adequate for this vehicle. I've never felt in need of any more, although I'm sure some people would want more. And the fuel economy is 30 miles per gallon combined, which is spot on for a non-hybrid in this class. Although if it were a hybrid and got 40, 45 miles per gallon, it'd be a home run. Not having all-wheel drive is definitely a game breaker for some people, but the Chevy Malibu doesn't have all-wheel drive, and that's been doing pretty well for a lot of people for a long time. This is roomier for 4 passengers than a Malibu and rides just as well, if not better. I would describe it as plush, and the steering is feather light. Reminds me of an old school Boulevardier. If that's how you even pronounce that, I'm not sure I've ever said that word out loud before. The Active's even available with a $795 package that adds adaptive cruise control, blind spot warning system, and automatic rear emergency braking. Front emergency braking is standard. And I think it's worth the money for really kicking this up a notch. There's also an $895 option that adds the sunroof and bundles it with a wireless charging pad for some reason. One thing to keep very much in mind about this is that it is not meant for towing. It doesn't even have a rating, and in fact, the owner's manual is very clear that you shouldn't use it for that. And to be honest, I don't think it's really well suited for a boat ramp. Could be a little sketchy with that front wheel drive. When it comes down to value, you really can't compete with this on price and size. It's pretty much untouchable right now. That said, I'm not entirely exaggerating when I say that the lack of rear cup holders could keep some people from buying this car. It's a big deal if you have people in the car a lot, especially kids. But while Chevrolet doesn't have a solution for that, General Motors does, because the Buick Envista is built on the same platform as the Trax, and a starting price of $23,495. It's only $2,000 more, a little fancier, and you get the rear armrest and cup holders. And while the active name is very much about keeping up appearances, I did discover one thing about this car that might help it live up to it, because this hood feels unusually heavy when you lift it up, and that's because there aren't any springs to help you do that. But as a bonus, you could probably just use this for a good workout. I don't have to go to the gym today.